Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, Rangers. It's me, Jackie Kashian. Welcome to the Dork Forest. It's 2024. Let's do this. Here's the credits, of course. Mike Ruekberg sang that song at the beginning, and he wrote that song, and he sang it with Sarah Cohen, his wife, and he will sing the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. Also, Patrick Brady, still putting this together. Video, audio, all of it. He's amazing. So, and Vilmos doing JackieKashianStore.com. Squarespace is doing the regular Jackie Kashian page, and I'm thinking of moving the Dork Forest and dorkforest.com away from WordPress because it's driving me nuts. But those are the credits. But if you go to JackieKashian.com, you can get Dork Forest merch. You can get my stand-up merch. You can get my stand-up CDs and DVDs, which you'd have to have devices for those. You can also see videos and find out any number of things. I have another podcast called The Jackie and Laurie Show, but the Dork Forest is the flagship. 18th year. We're doing it, you guys. You can go to my Bandcamp or my YouTube for extra content. Please donate, is what I'm saying. It's 2024, and I think we've been in this long enough. Why don't you guys, everybody send me $100? That's what I'd like you to do. You can PayPal me. There's links all over the pages. You can Venmo me at Jackie Kashian. You can find me at a stand-up show and hand me a sweaty wad of 20s. Do something. But I love doing the show. I would love to make some money, is what I'd like to do. In other news, I'm sure there's more things that I should talk about, but I can't think of them. But let's listen to who's going to dork out about something, because that's my favorite part. Thanks for listening, you guys. You're all great. Let's get into the show. Returning to the show, Rangers of the Dork Forest. One of my favorites of all time. Dana Gould, welcome back to the Dork Forest.
I love Rangers of the Dork Forest.
They are Rangers. that is their class, and they're classy.
They're not messing around.
They're not. I've
They're all
insisted.
business.
I've insisted you talk about a certain thing, but we can talk about whatever you'd like. But
Sure.
You enjoy film.
I enjoy film, and I enjoy the production code.
Right, the Hayes, the
Hayes office.
You're right. I don't remember who it was named after. I don't remember.
I believe it was a gentleman named Robert Hayes.
There we go.
Not the actor, but let me research that because we want to get the exact year too. And it was one of
I thought it was
most
33 or 34. No, 19?
It was, yeah. It was one of those pernicious enforced self.
Right. You have to police yourself.
Yeah, which is never good. Yeah, 34 to. Well, it started in 34 and it went apparently to 68, which seems longer than I thought.
And yet Mr. Potter got to keep that $7,000.
That's true.
Anyway.
It was Will Hayes, not Robert Hayes.
Oh, there we go.
Robert Hayes was an airplane, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, my brother Russ is a nerd and a movie nerd as well. And he made me watch a movie the other day, and it was pre-Hayes Code, and it was fantastic. And
yes. Based on a better play.
Based on a Noel Coward play, called Design for Living.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the play was amazing.
Yeah, Noel Coward said it's funny because everybody. This plays Design for Living. It stars Gary Cooper,
right? Frederick March, and spacing her name weirdly
and
enough.
a woman as the
That'll
woman.
show me. Yes, you always got to have some sort of what's it? A dame? Would it be? Anyway.
Yeah, and you don't associate Gary Cooper with Noel Coward, which is an interesting mix. But what was
Miriam Hopkins? So the world knows. Miriam Hopkins.
Not to be confused with Mary Hopkins, who sang "Those Were the Days," but produced by Paul McCartney.
Right.
But what is interesting about the film is it's a very good film written by, directed by Ernest Lubitsch,
right,
and written by Ben Hecht, who are amazing talents. And yet Noel Coward said, "These two hacks slaughtered my play." Like there's always,
did he pull an Alan Moore? He's like, take my name off of it, but send me the checks.
He said famously, I I think 2 or 3 of my original lines are in there. Among them, pass the mustard and other gems.
Right.
And even in the reviews, which were much more highbrow at the time, noted that I think one of the reviews was, this is, the play was a glass of the play was a bottle of champagne, and Ernest Lubitsch is a glass of beer director. But
well, that probably. I mean, Noel Coward is so revered that to touch anything that he's done is every snob in the world is going to get into it. But I never saw the play, so I get to enjoy the movie.
And also, a movie's not a play.
Right? It can't be. It that's not how it's done.
Yeah.
So, but the weird thing for me is when I go to visit my dad, I stay with my brother, and it is slightly a hostage situation where I sit in his living room and he makes me watch different parts of movies and different clips and different films entirely.
Won't just let you watch a movie front to back?
He let me watch Design for Living, but he fell asleep.
Is this your
my
dad or your
sister-in-law,
brother?
my brother Russ, and who has been on this program talking about Hallmark Christmas movies, because he will also make me watch clips of Hallmark Christmas movies just to see product placement. That's his favorite thing.
What my wife will do is I'll say I want to watch A. And my wife will say, you know what would be better? What if we watched B? And then we'll watch B. And the minute B starts, she just gets on her phone and starts watching TikToks. And after 10 or 15 minutes goes, what's happening? It's like Katherine Heigl's dress doesn't fit. Okay. It's just like,
Well, he also makes me, there's a lot of old Dick Cavett that come, Johnny Carson's, and
all gold,
some Merv Griffins, the guy who had a really good shoe. Remember that guy?
Ed Sullivan.
Ed Sullivan. Yes, I've spaced the name Ed Sullivan.
The man who gave us Elvis and the Beatles, that guy.
That guy, just some random guy who also enjoyed a juggler.
Right.
But whatever I'm saying is...
Topo Gijo.
So he's turned me on to some good movies, obviously, because I have a hard time watching. I'm often afraid it's going to be scary or it's going to be tense. And I have lived through, I would rather, and I've said this before, I would rather live through open water or be killed by open water than to watch a movie like Open Water. Just because of how much tension, and they're in the water, and I'm like, okay, this isn't, I hated Castaway, for example.
Right.
I hated Forrest Gump. There are movies that I did not enjoy.
You just don't like Tom Hanks.
I might not like Tom Hanks. Who didn't? I love Tom Hanks, in theory. So, but Design for Living, he was like, this is a weird pre-code, because I like Gary Cooper.
Right.
And they are a threesome. It's a thruple.
It is a thruple. And what I have noticed in my social experience recently is how do you know within 90 seconds if someone you meet is in a thruple?
Ooh.
They tell you.
Well, I suppose it's exciting. I get to touch two different people's parts.
It just sounds like a lot of work.
It does sound like a lot of work.
Also, from my perspective, let's say I'm in a throuple with 2 women.
Okay.
Which I am not.
Good.
I sleep
for you.
I sleep 6 hours a night. That leaves me awake for 18 hours.
Right.
18 times 2
36.
36. So that's 36 apologies a day.
Interesting. You went there. That's where you went. I told these people you were my favorite comic.
I average an apology an hour. I average an apology an hour. And so that would be double.
Right. What kind of monster are you? What do you apologize?
Anything.
Because I was just telling Andy that because we've been together for 20 years now, and 18 years of it were completely effortless. And his mother moved in with us 2 years ago.
Oh.
Now she's lovely. We live in a postage stamp. So
Doesn't
we're
matter.
stacked
Yeah.
like firewood.
Yeah, you
it doesn't matter.
You can't.
It can't. So it's, and I said, I've
You've
recently
given
realized.
you've given yourself an unnecessary stressor.
Right. And so the last 2 years have been harder. And I was thinking, and I realized that the reason the previous 18 years were not hard, he's literally asked nothing of me.
Mm-hmm. That helps.
Yeah. We literally just go to movies, have sexy times. We watch some TV occasionally. We play video games. And
that sounds like heaven.
It was heaven for 18 years.
That.
And I like my mother-in-law. I'm just saying we're stacked like firewood over here. But the Design for Living is, so there's a bunch of these pre-Hayes movies, many of which I will never see because they look very like The Public Enemy.
Right.
Right, which was too violent, I guess, after 1934, 1933.
Yeah. I believe Public Enemy star is...
That was James Cagney. Yeah, because I think it was about what like not a gun runner, but a booze runner back in the day. A bootlegger, that's it. But I guess Barbara Stanwyck was in several of these. She was working in that late 20s, early 30s.
Yes, and these movies are really when many people think of the 60s, they're really thinking of the early 70s. Like what people think of as the groovy hippie 60s.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That didn't start until about 67, 68. And
right. So it didn't get to Wisconsin until 74.
Yeah. Like when you see people like it's 1960, it's still, people look very normal. It's like, that's why the Oliver Stone movie, The Doors, everybody looks like it's 1973. No, if you look at footage of the Doors in concert, everybody in the audience is dressed like the guys from My Three Sons.
Right. They all are wearing jackets and ties. They're
or just like they had short haircuts and they look, most people look normal. So, and in that regard, the analogy to this is, when you think of the late 20s, this is really the 20s. This is the jazz age. This is, the nothing matters. Taking a bath in a tub of champagne. And
sort of the like right after World War I kind of craziness. That's what people are actually thinking of
up until the stock market crash.
Is that wild?
Yeah, and although the stock market crashed in 1929, the public still, during the Depression, people still made a lot of drawing room comedies because people didn't want to see their own lives on screen. They wanted to see something better.
Right. I would like to see
right.
An open foyer that has two staircases going up both ways, which I think was also in the movie Holiday.
I'm sure.
Where they shot it.
Yeah. And everybody should have a whippet named Falla that solves murders.
Ooh, see, I would watch that movie.
Yeah.
Design for Living was so interesting because it was set in Paris. It was unapologetically in French.
Yeah.
In like no translations, no, they just French, and then English. And you're like, you get it. You'll catch it. And I did, it turns out, with my 5 semesters of French. I passed 3. Thanks for asking.
Impressive.
Yep. Thank you.
Impressive.
And but it was interesting because she was I think what they really didn't like pre-Hays Code was when a woman acted more like a person, like a man.
Yeah. I mean, and there were ridiculous restrictions on things up until the late 60s, early 70s, including like, on television, I Love Lucy. Lucy and Ricky didn't sleep in the same bed.
Right.
And they were flipped out that she was going to appear pregnant, and this is like, I was, my parents were alive during this period. It wasn't like 800 years ago. It was, there was really ridiculous.
Right. Well, I remember I Dream of Jeannie. They had to cover up her belly button.
Right.
I think that was self-censorship for sure, but I don't know.
Yeah. It was like, don't make us, you do it. Don't make us do it.
Right. And they were like, we'll do it so that you don't have to do it. And some of it just became weirdly
Yeah.
Right. And studio chiefs and network executives were all titans of big business,
Oh,
ergo
right.
very conservative.
Right. Right. And
No.
weren't exactly the biggest artists that you've ever seen in
No.
your life.
No. I mean, artists don't, you know what I want to do is sit behind a desk all day and run numbers. Artists don't do that. It's as my friend was saying, it's show business.
Right.
And it works best when both sides understand that. And it works best when both sides understand they need the other side.
Right. Right. It's interesting that because I had a friend of mine tell me many years ago, she was like, you have to remember that they want to hang out with you because
Sure.
you're more interesting than they are.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they aren't necessary. They're very necessary.
No, they're very necessary. They're very,
and it doesn't
very
mean
necessary.
they can't be perfectly nice people to hang out
Yeah.
with.
No, they
But,
can be. I mean, I was married to a suit.
Right. You were.
Yeah.
And she
smarter
did
than I am.
amazing work. Yeah.
Smarter
Yeah.
than I am.
Saw stuff and made it. So
Yeah.
here's a question. Have you ever seen this? This is, so I looked up Hays Code, like sort of the 12 best Hays Code, pre-Hays Code movies.
Right.
And first of all, I love Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara
Mhm.
Stanwyck in almost anything. I will watch Barbara Stanwyck.
Right.
There's something called Night Nurse, which is Barbara Stanwyck and Joan Blondell, who doesn't get any of the credit.
That actually sounds like a romance movie that Barbara Stanwyck would have been in where you believed her.
Maybe she was, but I mean, because she did
I believe
she was
Barbara
so
was
tall.
I believe Barbara was what we called back in the day a gal's gal.
She might have been a gal's gal. She had, a comfortable shoe. But whatever I'm saying is,
She drove a Saab. And,
right back. These are references from the 80s, you guys. And but I will say that there was
good golfer.
real good golfer. It's why I always thought that woman who started that golf thing out in Palm
Dinah Shore?
Desert, Dinah Shore, was gay, but I
think she
understand
was.
she was not.
Oh,
I thought she
really?
was.
I assume she was.
Yeah,
Doris
so did I.
Day wasn't. I think Doris Day was.
I don't know. If you guys know about the sexuality of famous
If my
people,
wife
please
was here,
email me.
if my wife was, I was going to say if my wife was here, she would know. But my wife thinks everything is gay. Everything. The Washington Monument is gay. I mean, look at it. It's gay.
Interesting.
The Lincoln
Wow.
Memorial is so gay.
Wow.
Can I tell you a quick 30-second
Please.
diversion?
It's yours.
Speaking of parents making you watch old movies and things, which is there's no making. I'm always happy to sit down and watch a movie. But this was in April, and we were back in Massachusetts at my mom's memorial.
Okay.
And then everybody, it's at my dad's house, and everybody comes, and then everybody leaves.
Right.
And my dad, is Gran Torino. He's 93, stiff upper lip, just
okay.
Still driving himself, still doing his own shopping, and
Okay.
He is Clint Eastwood. He looks like Clint Eastwood. He is, that's him.
Right.
And so he doesn't say a goddamn thing all day. He's fine. And then everybody leaves, and we just sit down to watch a movie together, which is how we communicate.
Okay.
And it's my wife, my dad, and myself, and we watch Gran Torino. Not Gran Torino. I call him Gran Torino. We watch El Dorado, the John Wayne movie.
There we go.
I know what my dad's gonna like. So we're watching El Dorado. We watch it all the way through. It's great, very entertaining. And the only thing my dad says the entire movie is when the movie's over, he just goes, El Dorado. And then my wife turns to me and she goes, John Wayne was gay, right? And I go, no, I don't think so. She goes, no, I mean, come on, he had to have been. Like, no, I don't think so. And finally, all day, my father just goes, all right, I'm going to bed. And he just got up, and it was like, he can't lose his wife and John Wayne in the same day.
No, you can't do it. You can't leave him John Wayne. It'll be fine.
Give him something.
I always think that at that level of fame, that a mouth is a mouth is a mouth with some of those people, where you're just like, I think everyone was throwing everyone at each other and they were just like, okay.
Yeah.
And so
it's like people like, well, was Mick Jagger gay? I don't know if it does it. I think he's beyond that.
I really do
Yeah.
think that it's beyond that.
It's
And
irrelevant to him. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's, to some extent, it's what the new generation is going for. They're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to identify as gay or whatever.
Yeah.
Just sure, I'll make out with you. And
Yeah.
and I think that they just go forward from that place. And then they're like, well, I don't actually want to make out with you. And you're like, okay. So
I have this weird thing I do, and I'm waiting for it to work. I'm never without a stack of saltines. If you know anything about me, Jackie,
I do.
I always
huge
have
reveal.
I always have a stack of saltines with me in case I meet somebody who tells me that they're poly, and then I will offer them a cracker instantly. And
some people don't know that Dana Gould is the father of what, 3?
By the way, I'm over 30 on that joke.
Over 30. Oh, you know that
that is the biggest dad joke going. I am the father of 3. My best dad joke is when we go to In-N-Out. I will always stop at the electrical panel and give my order.
Yes.
And then it's just like they know it's coming. Here it comes. And they just bury their head in their hands. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. My father, I took him on a variety of tasks because he kept hitting things with his car. So when it finally died, my brother wouldn't buy him a new one. And I've been trying to teach him.
It's
a hard day. It's a real hard day for my dad. And I'm just like, I'm going to show you how to use Uber. You can call them.
Now imagine telling your dad he shouldn't run for re-election for president.
Oh, right. It's, yeah. I mean, the thing is what my father has said about Donald Trump is that I know that guy. He has never said this, but my father is almost that guy. But one of the things that he knows about Donald Trump is that he shouldn't run for president.
Sure.
And neither should my father.
Good for him.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, my dad has the Trump $100 bill or whatever it is taped to the wall. Everybody loves him.
Everybody loves them. Well, they're incorrect. Just going to make a sweeping statement.
And to their undying credit, we don't talk about it. They don't bring it up. They don't chicken fight about it. They know where I stand. I know where they stand. We respect each other's beliefs. And it's actually really great. I'm very grateful for them.
Well, yes, everyone I know who doesn't bring it up, I'm almost certain they don't bring it up because they know they don't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
So
it's just like, it's just like, I'm like, yes, you're right. I can't believe how right you are. Like, what? Why? You're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change your mind. Well, let's not do this.
And my dad's not going to vote for him because this is what he said about Hillary Clinton. She's not hot, but she's overqualified.
Okay.
And I was like, why does she have to be hot, Dad? She's 72. And he's like, well, I'm hot. Anyway.
I think it's social media has, I think the one of the horsemen of the apocalypse is the comments section of social media. And it's this belief of, well, people should know what I think. No. And I include myself in that. And there's this, hang on a moment. Hey, it's my good friend. It's my good friend, Spam Risk. But
do you have any saltines?
He calls me all day. But the thing is, the other way to do it, which is some people just arguing is the only way they know how to communicate with people.
Right.
And there's always that guy at the party, and the device I take is the clearly false statement that they attribute, that they assume that they immediately say, look, everyone agrees. Like, there's no argument that Jaws is the worst movie ever made about a shark. Like, no one will argue that point. And then they just wait. And when you don't pick it up, they slowly fall apart. Limbs drop off and they crumble like the Wicked Witch of the West. Or that would be great if you didn't argue with that person.
Yes.
But in person, it would be great as if you didn't argue with that person, that they would slowly, like, involuntarily fall asleep like a possum, like. Yeah.
Yes, that would actually be hilarious just because I
was at a party once.
Yes.
Just to finish the thought.
Please.
I was at a party once and a guy, I'd seen him do it before, stood up and made his patented, well-rehearsed, 10-minute speech about how the Beatles sucked and that the Rolling Stones did everything better and the Beatles are the most overrated thing of all time.
Oh my God. And
it was just
backwards.
clearly,
Yes.
clearly well rehearsed, agent provocateur. And then he finished, and there was a beat of silence, and then someone in the back of the room, who I wished was me, said, "That's like saying, 'Hi, I'm stupid.'" It was beautiful.
That's so funny. Oh my God. Is it right? I would 10 minutes. Oh my God. There's no hook. That is hard I have had this conversation in the backyard between, I think it was Maria's husband and the guy who wrote the tune for the Dork Forest, arguing about Billy Joel. And I can't express to you how much no one should care.
Yeah.
About Billy. I mean, I love Billy Joel, but nobody. That's not a horse I'm going to die on.
Yeah.
A horse I'm going to die on? I'm going to get on a horse.
Was it one of those things? Was it? Yeah. I'm gonna ride that horse to a hill and die on it. Was it Scott? Right? Is that Maria's husband's name?
Yes.
Does he love Billy Joel?
I believe he does not enjoy Billy Joel. I can't remember. I think Mike.
I
think Mike loves Billy Joel, and Mike is a musician, and Scott is a fine artist, and so I don't know what credibility that lent to it. But I remember Mike liking, because that's why Mike's the magician. Words are. He's the musician, and he likes Billy Joel, and Scott's the fine artist.
He's a magician who's not going to die on that horse.
He's not going to die on that horse. And I don't know why. I don't know. I assume that Scott doesn't like Billy Joel because he's from the East Coast and they won't stop playing him. It is overkill everywhere you go.
My ex-wife we were both from the East Coast, and her family loved Billy Joel, and I never liked Billy Joel because to me, I put Billy Joel in this Bruce Springsteen box, and I know they're not the same thing. But
they're of an age. That's about it.
They're of an age, and they're of an age, and they're of a geographically determined mindset and attitude, which I completely understand is great.
Yes,
doesn't work for me.
No,
it's just like I know that Springsteen is amazing. I know that he's amazing, and people
intellectually, yes,
and people who I really admire and look up to worship the ground he walks on.
Right.
And I would never say like he sucks, but it's just like, it doesn't work for me.
Right. It doesn't click with you. It's like incredibly well done movies. I'm like, I know it's gorgeous. I know it's amazingly acted. I don't want to cry right now.
Sure.
Or I don't, jump scares scare the shit out of me, and I can't take it. And this isn't even a jump scare. I'm going to bring us back to one of these pre-hays that I know that you've seen.
Freaks.
Did you know that Frankenstein would not have been made? 1931 would not have been made. I think was that the original one, to your knowledge?
Well, the first version was made in 1910 by Charles Edison.
Oh,
sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Can I redo that?
Yes.
Thomas Edison.
Wait a minute. The magician on his horse?
Charles Edison is a horse riding magician.
Exactly. It turns out it's catching. I'm so sorry, Dana.
Thomas Edison made the first version of Frankenstein.
Okay.
But in 1910. But I did not know it wouldn't have been made. Was it because of the religion?
Yes.
I know there was a line that they cut, which is, "Now I know what it feels like to be God." I know they had to cut that line.
Right. Did they cut it even in 1931?
They did. It went in later.
Okay.
But it was cut. I believe they put it back in when it was released in the 40s. After the it was like
because
and they had to put they finished the film, and then they went back and put in a prologue. They put in a piece where one of the actors from the film, a guy named Edward Sloan, who plays Dr. Frankenstein's friend, he also plays Van Helsing in Lugosi's Dracula, came out and says, like, this movie is very scary, and we're warning you up top, and it's about a guy who tries to be God, and you see what happens when you try to be God. Like, they had to reframe it as we
As
know
that.
this is, as a cautionary tale. And
Interesting.
and then it went up, and also one of the things they cut, which I can even understand, is the drowning of the little girl.
Supposedly, and then they blame that on Frankenstein, if I remember correctly,
well, you
right?
see in the film, Frankenstein is walking around. It's funny because it's supposed to be in Bavaria and it's in Malibu. He's up in Lake Malibu, and there's a little girl throwing flowers into the water,
Right.
and they're floating, and he's a child, and so he finds it fascinating, and he's watching it, and then he throws one in, and then she throws one in, and then they're out of flowers, and he looks at her, and
Jesus.
and then they cut to her father holding her dead body walking through town. Very effective cut. In the original cut, they showed him throwing her in the water.
Holy. Okay. I didn't even want to hear that story.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
And you can see it. You can see it.
Right.
Yeah. You go online and go like, yeah.
That's
okay.
No, it's
super,
so do you know if it was
super dark?
Right. Super dark. And was that
I don't even want to see it.
Right. Was that in the book?
No, the book is very different.
Okay.
The movie was basically based on a play, a theatrical version of it that they. Yeah, the book.
I see. Very okay. Did you now another great actor that I know that you know a lot of his work is Bela Lugosi.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Adam West. Go ahead.
Adam West, also an amazing actor.
Both played a Batman. There you go.
A Batman. Bella, did you ever see The Black Cat? That one's one of the last ones.
That movie is messed up.
Right. That's right. And that was pre-Case Code too.
Yeah. Is that the one where Boris Karloff basically plays Aleister Crowley? He plays like a Satanist who has his or it could be the Raven. Yeah. And he slept with Bela Lugosi's wife and then keeps her in a tank.
Okay. Wait, he's out for revenge because Boris Karloff is
who plays Leonard Polzig.
So it's Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
And so there's necrophilia,
they're also in the
Satanism.
Raven. They're also in the Raven, but I think the Black Cat is one that is super messed up.
Drug use, incest, along with a truly squirm-inducing human flaying scene.
Yeah, that's at the end.
Involving shadows, sound, and writhing hands.
Yeah, that's the end where Bela
gets him, catches
has his revenge.
Right. What I like about this list, and I might put it in the notes, is that it's those movies, and then it's also a woman plays an auto executive, and that was not allowed.
Yeah, I was going to say that's we'll believe in Frankenstein. We can believe in a guy coming back from the dead, but we can't believe in a woman having a job.
Right. It's called Female, and it's 1933, and it's Ruth Chatterton, who I've never heard of. She plays a brisk.
That sounds like something sarcastic her husband would call her.
Brisk or female?
Hey, Ruth Chatterton, you want to stop talking and come downstairs?
You're right. That can't be her real name. They made her, and someone thought it was funny. Assholes. She's a hard-charging auto executive who happens to be female. She has boss girl energy. She sleeps her way through her employees. Not a good look, maybe, but
not a good look.
No worse than her dude counterparts. Wow, she's even when she softens her image to appeal to a guy she's genuinely interested in, it's just an act until the slightly disappointing final act. It's
oh my god! In which she renounces ambition. I don't know what I was thinking.
No, she doesn't. She essentially it ends like a dude, a brazen exploration of a woman's sexual and business acumen, and then she just keeps going. It turns out
good for her.
It's it turns out it's just a movie about a very ambitious person who wants to get laid. And, but then there's also a couple of like, did you ever see Holiday with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn?
100 years ago.
Okay. Cause it's my favorite movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Cause it's a romantic comedy, but it is also has this social justice kind of thing in it.
Right.
Where Cary Grant plays, a young man who just grew up from a blue collar background, and now he's going to be a financial genius.
Right.
And Katharine Hepburn and her sister, played by, I can't remember, play very rich women who half fall in love with him and really fall in love with him.
Right.
Anyway, but Design for Living, the guy in Design for Living who plays her boss,
Max
is in Holiday as well.
Okay, is in Holiday. Okay.
Right. And
I like that she marries him out of spite.
right. Just in the middle of Design for Living,
Just like,
she marries just the poor schlub dude.
yeah, I'm going to solve this problem by marrying someone I don't love, which, by the way, is one of the more believable turns in that story. Like, yeah, I can see this.
My dad married his long-term girlfriend because Nancy started going out with a guy he played cards with, my stepmother. He said, I'd get married by Monday. And I was like, are you getting married at Nancy, my stepmother of 25 years? And he was like, what? And then he married her and they were divorced 3 months later.
Wait.
So
they dated a long time.
Yes, they had an affair for 9 years. And while my father and my stepmother were married for 25, and 9 of those years, my father was having an affair for 9 years. And when confronted by
he was in a secret thruple.
Right. That's the thing about a thruple. Everyone's got to know.
Everybody's got to know.
But when confronted, I've told this on stage, which is literally my stepmother and my uncle Greg, her brother, were at dinner, and it came up like just in conversation. And my dad goes, "Not 9 years in a row." And you're like, wow, that is very funny. Wow, are you a dick? Okay. Yes.
Not in a row.
Not in a row. I didn't like her for a couple of years, and I was like, oh, bored.
I can't believe you would say that. That's what's really wrong here is your attitude.
You brought it up. Yes. It turns out people are going to bring it up.
But they couldn't be a couple. They needed the subterfuge.
Yes, I think my father gets bored relatively easy.
Clearly.
And so Evelyn, who he actually said to my sister and I, I'm sorry I didn't invite you guys to the wedding. And Darla, my sister, who is the best, said out loud to him, I never come to anyone's third wedding, Dad.
Good for her.
Yes. It's my favorite other line of hers that I loved was when she was probably 10. My grandmother said to her, we were so happy when you were born because there were 4 boys and then you were born. And we were like someone to take care of the boys. And Darla at age 10 said, you're thinking of someone else.
Did they laugh?
My grandmother probably did. Yes. Okay. Darla told me that story.
Did she know how funny she was being?
No, but she did. My sister is the only person I've ever known who gets younger every year. Wow. She was the most serious child I've ever met in my life. She was also the only person I knew, but I bet you my brother Russ was doing it, but she was the only person I knew who ever read the real estate. Remember the newspaper real estate at the grocery store? Yeah. She would read that. And she would look at it like a Sears catalog at Christmas when you got to pick things.
That's amazing.
She would look at the houses and go, this one looks interesting. And I remember talking to her once when I'm 2 years younger, and I go, wait, you would move into another house? And she'd go, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I need to get out of this house. And I was like, so you would move away from all of us? And she looked at me and there was a weird pause and she goes, you could live with me. And
it's so funny. Like my oldest daughter all my kids are funny in their own way, but my oldest daughter has like a bullwhip kind of side eye.
That's amazing.
And 2 years ago or something, she's home from college, and it was early October. She was like home for the weekend, and I said, "Come on, let's go to the pumpkin patch," because we always just go to this big pumpkin patch up in Simi Valley,
right?
Underwood Family Farms, Fall Harvest Fest.
A small ad.
And I get nothing from them. And they go, come on, let's do it. And it's like, come on, just do it for me. Come on, one last time. We're all here. We're all here. Everyone's home for the week. Let's do it. So me and my 3 girls, 2 of them are in college now.
Okay.
And we're all driving up, and Lulu looks at me and she goes, you know, Dad, this is like buying your dog a steak before you put it down.
Wow, I think you're the dog in that.
Oh, I am. There's no question about it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, but it's really fun. And people, you're talking about that holiday.
Yeah.
I remember. Just you made me think of this. A very good friend of mine was dating someone who was from a very wealthy Chicago family, and they were out here in Los Angeles. And it was one of the first times I saw like how people that come from a certain level of financial security just do not see the world the way you do. And
it's a different fishbowl.
Yep. I had a roommate, and we lived in an apartment, and we were looking for a new apartment. And I said, "Yeah, we're looking for a place right now. Just trying to make it work." And she said, and they're like, "You can have a roommate?" Like, "Yeah, I'd love to live alone, but I can't afford it. I'd love to live alone, but I'm sure I'll have a roommate." And she said completely, there are some really cute houses for sale in the Valley.
Just so cute. Just so cute.
Just pop out to the Valley and buy a house.
Pop out. And this was probably in 2003 when you could get one for $300,000. And
yeah, this was in like 1990 when I was.
Oh my God, where you could have, that.
But I was making, $30,000 a year.
Right. There's no buying a house.
Yeah,
right.
I'm not buying it.
I think the first time I met someone who was, that's funny because of the George Cukor thing, because George Cukor directed Holiday. He also directed one of these pre-Hayes movies that was also about classism, and it's called Our Betters.
Oh, gosh.
And 1933, and it's just, I guess it was just too commie or whatever.
Right.
But Constance Bennett plays Pearl.
Oh, yeah.
Who, after quickly finding about her husband's mistress, begins an affair, first with wealthy Arthur, and then with unashamed gigolo Peppy, who she's rather stolen from her friend Minnie. Pearl's entire circle becomes involved in the various romantic complications, none of which involve her husband, and she's even joined by her tango instructor, a pansy in the parlance of the time.
Yep.
Who serves as a source of helpful advice and comic relief.
He was the gay friend. Before you could be the gay friend.
The gay friend. Yeah. Did you ever see a documentary called Out of the Closet?
Sure.
That was about the sort of the history. You know who'd love that? Your wife.
Mm-hmm.
She would love the history of how homosexuality is depicted in film over the last 100 years.
And then what people don't know is that Constance Bennett had a sister named Random Bennett.
Okay.
On and off Bennett, interspersed Bennett.
Right. Well, the problem with this was not the classism even in Our Betters, 1933. The lesson is don't put misters before sisters.
Oh.
So
And it was also interesting, like the depiction of homosexuals back then. It was very much don't ask, don't tell. And that went up until like the 60s and 70s.
I don't know. It was Charles.
It was confirmed bachelor.
Right.
Paul Lynn is a confirmed bachelor.
Right. One of my grandmothers, my stepmother's mom, always, because Liberace grew up in Milwaukee, in the neighborhood that she also grew up in. They went to the same high school. And she always said the sad thing about Liberace was that he never found a nice girl.
Sure.
And it was just a thing. And who was it? Was it
he
Charles
was a
Fleischer?
He was a heartthrob.
Right. Charles Fleischer, I think. No, that's not right. Paul Lynde, but
Charles Nelson Riley.
That's it, Charles Nelson Riley. Thank you very much. Charles Fleischer rode a horse and was a magician.
Yeah.
And there's a theme in this. So Charles Nelson Riley, famously, someone tried to
men and ascots is how we called them.
He someone threatened to they tried to blackmail Charles Nelson Riley in the early 70s. and tell people that he was gay. And I guess he genuinely just laughed in their face and said, please try to find someone who doesn't know. And
try to find someone who doesn't know.
Right.
That's hilarious.
Right. This is,
do you know the joke about Paul Lynn?
No.
I'm assuming you can swear on this.
Please fucking call it.
Yeah. Paul Lynn was in, I don't know, the story may be apocryphal, but I hope it's true. He was in, I believe, a touring company of the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Okay.
And he's in the dressing room and he said, it was him and a bunch of women, and he said, this place smells like pussy, I think.
Do you remember that joke you used to do? Guys, let's reminisce about Dana Gould's act.
Oh, God.
Do you remember that joke you used to do about gay men trying to pass as straight?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was based on someone I knew.
Oh, fair enough. It was, it's not cool.
I just love chicks. I love chicks and their boobs. I love their boobs. And I want to have sex on their boobs with my penis.
It was, there was a time. And
a girl and I'm going to run and have human sex on her.
It was, I have to say, I'm just reminding some of my younger listeners
you could
there
do
was
that.
a time when you couldn't tell people that you were gay. There was, we lived through the horrible AIDS crisis that was very sad. So many people died. And, but the only way to sort of take the teeth away from homophobes was to make fun of them.
Right.
And the best comics did that. And that is Dana Gould. So cover your ears because I'm saying nice things about you. Yeah. Okay. So
here's another thing that's changed. And this sort of speaks to the code that you're talking about. I have my youngest daughter is 15 and we spend a lot of time together every day. I am her driver.
Oh, that's it.
And I listen to, we don't even pretend to listen to what I want anymore. It's just, right. So I know a lot about what young women are listening to, from Taylor Swift to Olivia Rodrigo to Chappell Roan to Sabrina Carpenter. Like, I know all these.
You know all the names.
And I am stunned at how filthy these lyrics are. And I'm like, the Beatles couldn't do that. Like,
right.
Like Chappell Roan, who I think is really brilliant, by the way. I mean, really great. I mean, of the people that I mentioned,
yes,
I believe she is the best songwriter.
Okay.
And based on very little, I think 2 albums, but I think Taylor's in a slump. I think Taylor's released the same album 3 times going now.
You would know. I don't have any. I got nothing. Anyway.
But Taylor, Chappell Roan's big hit, Casual. The refrain is like, knee deep in the back seat and you're eating me out.
Yes.
It's like, if the Beatles were allowed to sing like that, their songs would sound like the way my brothers and I sang their songs when we were trying to make each other laugh. Like, Michelle, your tits are so big.
Which is what, but here's the great, I mean, it's really for the best that they stopped a lot of men from saying things until rap came out. Because when they said things, it was horrifying. The things, like, I think the first time I realized that some of the funniest comedy was coming in lyrics of pop songs.
Sure.
There was, I think it was Janelle Monáe. And you should know that I listen to all of my pop music at the grocery store and the gas station.
Sure.
So
that's about I mean, I rarely listen to it myself.
I wish I knew more about it, but like it's not like I'm going to a spin class. Okay, so the Janelle Monáe has this great.
My dad does bar method, but not that.
It's Janelle Monáe had this line about "get off my areola," and I laughed I'm still laughing. Man. It's years later. And so the other pop music I get is from the television program Bridgerton, which is, there are orchestral rearrangements of pop songs.
Okay.
There's an orchestral rearrangement of a Gale song called ABCDEFU.
Good.
And that song, the lyrics are hilarious in the way that she's like, fuck you and your job and your kids and your broke ass car, that shit you call art, everything but your dog, fuck you.
Well,
And
yeah.
done with a violin, it's adorable.
Cardi B and Doja Cat are hilarious.
They're hilarious.
Doja Cat specifically, I think is amazing.
Do you want to drop some lyrics? You got something?
The song that you need to hear is "N-Words Ain't Shit," which is an answer song to a song called "Bitches Ain't Shit."
Okay.
But
I like that there's a dialogue going on.
Yeah.
That has always been my favorite thing about hip hop. It's just back and forth. We're talking.
There's one line where it's like, she breaks up with this guy because she goes, 10-page text, should have wrote a book, could have made a bag, but he broke, and he's I can't do it justice, but
Can't find it.
So fun.
Yeah, just look it up.
Could have made a bag, but he broke it. He wishes he's still going to get back to him. It's just like I'm going to use the word fella. She doesn't use the word fella, but it was like at the end the refrain is, I'm not your mommy, fella. Find a new hobby, fella. Get here before I get picked up. Your shit's in the lobby, fella.
Your shit's in the lobby.
And he goes, I'm not going to key your car. I'll call your fucking mom. You should have paid my rent. Go get a fucking job.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I now know why that club owner is so mad at me, because I ended up calling his mom, and I didn't know she was. I mean, I forgot she was his mom. Anyway,
your car. I'll call your fucking mom. Should have paid my rent. And it was like, it was like, fellas ain't shit. Fellas ain't shit. All up in your fridge. Can't pay rent. All up in your fridge.
Your fridge. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's that song is amazing, and there's a song called "Paint the Town Red" that's also really amazing.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The fact that people think that, but that they think that all this sort of sex and drugs and crime and violence and all this stuff was just invented, and that we have to control it at this point.
Yeah, everything's happened before.
Everything. And your great grandfather did things that would terrify you.
Yeah.
That would be like, yeah.
I always, my musical taste, I really became musically interested. I wasn't into music in high school. It wasn't until I got to college that I really got into music. I was certainly exposed to a lot, but I didn't really have my music until I went to college, and then I got into what was then called New Wave, which was Elvis Costello and all that.
Oh yeah.
And so then through that I discovered punk from earlier, but that was always my musical taste. But then, and you read these stories about Sid Vicious and all Richard Hell and all these punk musicians that just flamed out, and then you read about the country and western singers in the 40s and 50s who made those guys look like children. Hank Williams drank himself to death at 27.
Right.
It's like these guys that were drinking. Yes.
And the jazz and blue guys?
Yeah.
The jazz and blues guys like Jelly Roll Morton? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Also, just add guns. They also had guns.
Right.
Yeah. And we're fighting institutional racism.
And were they 27? The 27 Club. Nobody, there were probably a boat ton of 27-year-olds in the late 1800s and early 1900s who were inventing swing. Yes.
Yeah. But it's everything. And that also gives you a little bit of it calms you down when you look at what's going on. And today's, things are just as effed up as they were in my grandfather's time. But in my grandfather's time, he looked at the newspaper in the morning and then he went on his day. He didn't have the newspaper in his pocket and it updated every 5 minutes and he would take it out and read it again.
And he might see the newspaper in the afternoon because there were two newspapers.
Right.
There was one in the morning. There was one in the afternoon.
He might find the bulldog, but but people didn't just like ingest news all day.
The Sudan. I do a bit that I'm working on about how I like my news like the Pony Express, 2 weeks late with a lot of analysis, because there's nothing I can do about it. Right, I can help the person in front of me, and if I worry about what's happening in Indonesia, it's just going to keep me up at night.
Yeah,
you can't do anything. I only read speeches of politicians because it's easier to see the lies.
Yep.
And I just take a lice comb, and then I don't watch any talking head news.
Yeah.
I'll see clips sometimes, but I'll only read the news because, and I mostly read headlines, and then I do a deeper dive if I need to do a deeper dive. But it's just like, if I watch the news, I would just, the spin would be so insane. Like my mother-in-law, she brought a 65-inch television into this house, and she watches the news. So, and when I say the news, she doesn't watch the news. That's not true. She used to watch the local news when she lived upstate, Exeter. She lived up in Lindsay and Exeter. So, but she watches Colbert, and she watches The View, and she watches Kimmel, and and The Daily Show, and then she'll do sort of deeper dives and sort of YouTube following these things, right?
Right.
And I was like, you have an iPad, just read BBC, just read anyway, read the AP, read Reuters, magicians,
Axios.
Reuters?
You can get everything you need if you go to Axios.com, AXIOS, and you can get like a good overview of what's really important in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's just information coming in. If you would like information, if you would like opinion, call your dad.
Well, as my friend says, you're not watching the news. You're watching the news business.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, final movie that I'm vaguely interested in is called I'm a Fugitive from a Chain Gang, 1932.
Oh, sure, yeah. That
Did you see that?
Yes, that might be the most well-known pre-Hayes
Paul Muni?
film. Paul Muni. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another, crime doesn't pay. Crime does pay.
Right. You can't talk about positive portrayals of anything resembling crime made it hard to discuss any kind of social justice.
Right.
But I guess it was based on a true story about a guy in a chain gang, and it led to actual revamping of some stuff in Georgia. Like it helped change the thing. So
it's interesting you say that, because just hear how these things repeat. And I'll give you an example of something that I remember in the early 1970s.
Okay.
Television sitcoms were really like at their peak. You had All in the Family, you had Mary Tyler Moore, you had the Bob Newhart Show, you had all of the Jeffersons, Good Times, all of these Maude, all of these amazing shows that largely because of Norman Lear specifically,
right,
were challenging. Were very socially trenchant. They were bringing in, Archie Bunker was an unrepentant racist, and they were, there was an argument that was made that he was actually normalizing racism, and that it made it acceptable, and you could absolutely see that. But then there were other things that Archie never won an argument. Never with a black person or a Latino. So, I mean, it's a balance, but they were bringing these things in, and Maude had an abortion. That was one of the big episodes where Maude had an abortion. And then somebody at CBS, I think it was the head of CBS, was getting grief from, right-wing conservative, like, we can't expose our children to this.
Right.
And right when that started, NBC, that was the lowest rated network, aired a TV movie called Born Innocent that starred Linda Blair, hot off The Exorcist. And in it, she goes to reform school. And in this TV movie, she is graphically assaulted with a broom handle.
Oh my God.
Then there was a copycat crime not
Okay.
long after, and boom, the Family Hour was invented. And all of those shows like Mary Tyler Moore and all the family were moved to 9 o'clock.
Oh, right.
And 8 o'clock became the Family Hour.
And I remember my stepmother freaking out about One Day at a Time.
Yeah. Also
Yeah.
Norman Lear.
Okay, because she was a single mom. I
And
think is what it was.
And I think that, and also it's like the pendulum swings back and forth. People wanted All in the Family because they were sick of Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. They wanted something a little more compelling. But then the show that knocked All in the Family out of the #1 spot, Happy Days.
Okay.
Literally nostalgia for an earlier time.
Right, because everybody that age, everybody who was 40 in 1976.
But it's like people don't understand that these moods come and go. It's like, so now all people just want to be stupid all the time. No, they want it for a while. They're sick of this. They want something. They want the opposite. And then after a while, that will change again. And then Hill Street Blues comes on or what have you. It's just like, I can bring home a pizza tonight. My kids will be euphoric. If I bring home a pizza tomorrow night, they'll be like, we had pizza last night.
Right.
And it's like people don't want to have pizza every night.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's changed now. The way that's different now. The way people watch television and bring in media, but it is that thing that people it expands and contracts. It's a pendulum. It goes back and forth.
Right. And the way that people consume media now, you can watch anything all the time. So
which is what people do. Like
and they mix it up.
Yeah, the way kids watch television is they watch a show. Grey's Anatomy, and they'll start at the beginning and watch all of Grey's Anatomy. Or now my daughter's watching One Tree Hill. Start at the beginning, you watch all of One Tree Hill.
My mother-in-law watched 17 seasons of Grey's Anatomy before she went into the hospital last year, and now she's I should start her on One Tree Hill. She watched all of Monk, by the way.
Wow.
About a month ago.
All good shows.
Sure. Andy walked into the kitchen and he said, I think I'm over Monk. I think I'm done with Monk right now. And I said, right now? And he goes, actually, just done with Monk. And it's just too much in a row.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. He's not a binger, so he can't.
Yeah.
And
it's a lot
Lori
of
Kilmartin gets to watch a lot of anime because her son is very much into anime.
Yeah, I had that myself.
Oh, good. Because that, you know what that does? It keeps you relevant. You'll get to make those references. I'm over here still talking about, I don't know, The Godfather or something.
But I also watch Perry Mason every night. That's like
not the new one.
No, although I did like the new one.
So dark.
Yeah, that's fine. But I love the old. I love an old Perry Mason.
Well, Dana, this has been delightful. We have wandered around the Hays Code and in music and mostly film.
Yeah.
Dana
what we've
Gould
learned is nothing is this. Everything is the same. It just cycles around.
It does. So it's at Dana Gould on all the things. Hanging with Dr. Z is you put on the mask of the Planet of the Apes guy and talk.
That is.
And just talk.
That is the most,
it's not like you're Dr. Zayas.
That is the most deconstructionist description of that show I've ever heard.
And it surprised me.
It's not a mask. It's not an appliance.
It's an appliance?
It's an appliance. It's the talk show Dr. Zayas would have had in the 70s if he was a talking orangutan that was an actor that happened to be in a movie called Planet of the Apes.
That is a much better description than me just going, he really likes to wear that mask. Anyway,
what I wanted to do was come up with something that people would see, and then afterward, no one would say, "Oh, that."
So if you go, is there a hangingwithdrz.com?
Yeah. And hang with
Okay.
Dr. Z on Instagram. You can follow his show business, his
So you
show
can see
business
some clips
channel.
and then watch the whole thing.
You can watch the
Do you-
show on. We have
Yep.
a YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel, and you can watch the show. Follow him on YouTube and keep abreast of his show business stories and life and his and we're still working on a movie right now called
Oh, that's awesome.
a short called The Ape Stays in the Picture. And
that is an old Hollywood reference.
Yep.
It is always a delight to have you on because there's always an old Hollywood reference.
I don't like also like I don't believe that things only got interesting when I became aware of them. I think that it's like
no, and you're always learning. Yeah.
Did you see? I watched the movie the other night. I know we gotta go. I watched a movie the other night called The Driver, which is from 1978. Walter Hill. Stars Ryan O'Neal, Isabella Adjani, who's unbelievably gorgeous, and Bruce Dern. And it's basically what Ryan Gosling's Drive was, a remake of it, basically.
Okay.
But I never knew where the story was, because my wife watched this movie called The Gift with Jason Bateman.
Okay.
And I watched 10 minutes of the movie. I immediately knew what the act break was going to be and how it would resolve. And I was, to my great disappointment, I was right.
Yeah, you're right. Because you don't want to, because you would love to be surprised. Yeah.
And The Drive, I never knew where the story was going. And it's really great. I love seeing LA, like old LA, like, oh my God, they built a building there. There used to be a vacant lot. And also, the great thing about Drive is Ryan O'Neal is the criminal. Bruce Dern is the cop.
Okay.
Bruce Dern is the crazy one.
Right.
Ryan O'Neal is sane. Bruce Dern is the craziest motherfucker in that film, and he's the cop.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, yeah, that sounds amazing. Does it have a Hays Code ending? No.
Not. No, but but again, it's ending. It's not what you think it would be. The ending, 4 minutes before the ending, I didn't know what the ending was going to be. What a delight.
Yes, that does that.
Yeah.
I know people who would love that.
Yeah.
I stood in the doorway and watched the Watchmen series from the corner.
Yeah.
So, because I wanted to see it so bad, because it was a follow-up of the comic, but I also was made uncomfortable. So, congratulations, everyone who has ever made me uncomfortable. That's some real art there. It's some good work. So go to danagould.com and go to @DanaGould and watch, go see a stand-up comedy for sure. Hanging with Dr. Z. And thank you so much for doing the show.
Yeah, of course.
Super fun. Rangers, you know the rules out there.
I like how you texted me and Matt Weinhold at the same time to see if we were available, and we were sitting
and then
next
you
to
sent
each
a
other
picture.
in the movies.
It was amazing, actually. Hey, take care of each other out there.
Hiya, doll. How was the show?
Well, it was super interesting, and it was with Dana Gould, who has been on the show several other times. Always a delight.
Several times, right?
I kind of picked his dorkdom this time, and so it was the Hays Code.
Interesting.
I know, it was weird.
Did he know? Did he come in prepared?
We just ended up talking about various different movies, many of which neither of us had seen.
Okay.
It was a list of like 13 pre-Hays Code movies that were supposed to be really good.
Okay.
And
but neither one of you have seen, so.
He had seen some of them. He had not seen others. We had opinions about all of them.
Oh, good. That's important.
He did tell me something very creepy about the original Frankenstein.
Oh, okay.
Which is not the Thomas Edison one. I think it might have been the 1931 one.
Okay.
There was a
Thomas Edison Frankenstein?
He did the first Frankenstein.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, but Dana Gould did and told me.
That's fascinating
in
and of itself.
Right. And how long could it have been, right? It couldn't have been very long.
Well,
I mean, they weren't doing feature-length movies when Thomas
Right,
Edison
right.
invented or stole the idea for moving pictures or whatever he did.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know, honestly.
Right.
I don't know that he had anything to do with the camera, honestly.
So I have seen this clip from the 1931 movie where there's a father holding his little girl walking through town.
Yes.
I guess the scene that they cut pre-Hays Code, even the Hays Code didn't have to tell anyone that this was not anything anyone needed to see, is Frankenstein throwing the little girl into the lake. They're throwing flowers into the lake, him and the little girl, and they run out of flowers.
Right.
And then you see him stare at her, and then they smash cut to the guy carrying his daughter.
Oh,
but
okay.
I guess in the original cut, Frankenstein throws her into the lake just because he ran out of flowers. Very weird.
You ran out of flowers. You got to throw the next thing available.
Right. So, very weird, of course.
That makes sense.
And
I mean,
yes.
I mean, that tracks.
Right. Things super dark. And then we talked, he's a font of old Hollywood information, and it was great.
He is that. Where did he get all of this information? Did you find out?
I think he cares more than other people.
Oh. And
He doesn't care more than James Urbaniak, or he doesn't care more than Frank Conniff.
Oh, is this a challenge? Are you throwing down?
There's no. Yeah, I mean, there's other people who do care as much as him, but I think that they all cared because they just watched a boat ton of movies.
Well, and they kind of love Hollywood and Hollywood stories, right?
Right, for sure.
And so, really, his dorkdom is Hollywood stories.
Kind of.
And so all you really need to do is give him some entryway into talking about Hollywood stories, and he's got them.
Right. You know, he does that show as Dr. Zaius.
Yes.
And I didn't know. I had seen him do
I
it.
mean, he was doing that a long time ago. I don't remember.
Well, he hosted the last time I did it, where he was dressed as Dr. Zaius. It was a show with stand up, and it wasn't his panel show.
Right.
And so I mentioned it as where he wears the outfit and the mask, and then he does crowd work and does stand up, and he's like, that's not what it is. And I was like, so I felt bad because he does do a panel show, and he does always do, he just loves that character so much.
Well, if you're going to buy the costume,
I think
you're going to want to find a way to get.
I think it's the original costume from the movie.
I think it is,
because it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it is. And if you're going to have something like that, you're going to want to get the most value out of it.
And
does he still
straight.
do it as the actor who always plays Samuel Clemens?
Oh,
there for a while he was doing like a bit.
Mark Twain, right,
as portrayed by
Dr. Zaius. I remember seeing that video. I never saw that live. That would have, everyone go look that up.
Go find that.
Because he does essentially Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, but as Dr. Zaius.
But with the voice of the guy, he does a dead-on impression of the voice of the guy who frequently is famous for playing Samuel Clemens / Mark Twain.
Oh, right. Which was Hal Linden?
Hal Linden, yes.
Weird. What? Where did that come from in my mind?
Wow.
All I know is that every time he does the Dr. Zaius, he's just like, he just happens to be an orangutan, and now he has a talk show. And it's just it's always epically hilarious. So find Dana Gould in all things and like him so much because he's so great. Thank you. And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat, my hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?